something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life.
Welcome back to The Five. Well, it's time now for some 2012 news. There are some brand new polls out showing that despite Rick Perry's lead with Republicans in practically every poll since entering the race, Mitt Romney has an important edge with swing voters. So let's take a look at these two new polls out from USA Today and Gallup. The first one showing, as you can see, Perry leading the pack with 31%, Romney at 24%, and Ron Paul, the only other candidate in the double digits, at 13%. Then they bring another poll up to see how these two frontrunners fare with President Obama. Romney edges President Obama by 2 points, and Perry trails the president by 5 points. But then when you put these two men in a matchup to see who will garner more support among crucial swing voters, it looks like Romney has the edge there, while Perry has the edge among Republicans, which is, I guess, good now, Bob, because that's the most important thing. We're not in a general, we're in a primary. So, any thoughts on?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not surprising that the front runner of a political party is going to have a stronger base of support among the base of their party. The question is, can you time your campaign in a way to get back and grab those centrist voters? There are of independent voters, about 20% of the people who go to the polls. Some argue 25%. Are independent voters. The reason that Romney's all of a sudden getting support on Capitol Hill, you notice that Roy Blunt and others surround it. The establishment of the Republican Party is beginning to surround him because they're worried about one fact, which is irrefutable, and that is that Rick Perry is dangerous when it comes to independents, and the rest of the ticket needs him. He is a strong position to get the nomination, but he is a much weaker general election candidate.
All right, you worked for President Bush. They said the same things about President Bush. Not that smart. Governor of a Republican state. How can he actually be so right-wing and win?
And he had a Southern accent. Don't forget the Southern accent.
Yeah.
That really hurts you when you're trying to make a serious point about
Israel. But Bush always ran well among independents. Always.
Well, and there's a good I mean, we have to go back in time, okay? So it's 1998 is when the race really kind of started amongst the primary, like who's going to be the nominee, who's going to be the nominee. And he had been a successful governor, reelected, and he was speaking to a lot of people who agreed with his education reform in particular. So I think it's just a little bit too early to say. Though on the Roy Blunt thing, Congressman Blunt, who's from Missouri, a senator, him heading up Romney's congressional efforts, I wonder if there's a deeper, longer-lasting relationship and something that Romney is benefiting from having cultivated in the 2008 election. It could be. I don't know.
But it's no real surprise, Eric, though, that Romney's garnering support among these swing voters. I mean, he's a political swinger.
But also,
I've never been to those parties.
There are a lot of
if you look at the support, there were still 27% that weren't encompassed on the poll. Also, when Ron Paul falls and Michelle Bachmann go to the wayside, that's 20%. That those two would more likely go to be Ron Paul supporters than Romney supporters.
You mean more Perry supporters?
I mean more Perry supporters. I'm sorry, more Perry supporters than Romney supporters. Also, Bobby Jindal today came out and said, Rick Perry, the exact opposite of Obama, and if that isn't, if that's not exactly where he's going, that's exactly what he's going.
Let's remember the comparison between Texas. What George Bush campaigned on, I thought a magnificent, if you're going to come up with a slogan, compassionate conservative, which appealed to independents who are compassionate conservative people. Rick Perry is making himself clear that he's not George Bush. I'm a conservative. I ain't necessarily buying into the compassion part of that. I'll tell you, he better get to understand that as he gets close to a general election, he gets this nomination, he cannot win.
Why now? Well, he's got to get the nomination.
I understand that, but you're molding yourself.
Greg, we keep talking about only two men. You notice that?
Yeah.
Michelle Bachmann came out recently and she says, look, my campaign's alive and well, despite the fact that everyone keeps saying this is a two-man race.
Yeah, she actually said, because I guess what her campaign manager said something negative, and she said alive and well, which is something you would say after you had a mishap. Like, oh, yeah, I'm alive and well. But can I just go back to something Bob said? You said how great compassionate conservatism was. I hated that phrase. I hated, when I heard compassionate conservative, it would piss me off, because that implied that a conservative in and of its own is not compassionate, when in fact it's the most compassionate perspective one.
Can I say one more thing about Bachman? By the way, I was alive and well after my open heart surgery, barely, but I made it.
And look at you now.
I'm not as happy as most of you conservatives out there.
I bet you talked all the way through your bypass.
Actually, I did. I talked myself into getting a drink of water. This big old nurse would let me have it. But
Keep
listen,
talking, Bob. You have
what
about
I was going to say,
15
all right,
seconds.
Bachman said, among other things, that the Republicans were going to win California. Now, there's a lot of states I could call on that and say you could win it. If I were Michelle Bachman, I agree with you. She was there and all that. And you can't say, no, we're not going to win it. But really, the chance, if that happens, then I am definitely going to New Zealand.
All right. Unlike your bypass, you have to stop talking. We're going to commercial.
Is my bypass still talking?
Yes. Coming
Okay.
up, this next story is sure to spark some debate. A new crisis hotline is offering assistance to illegal immigrants that could be deported. Our 5 takes on that.
No sailor